You're listening to Wycombe Sound, online, on Radio Player, and on 106.6 FM.
Welcome along, this is episode 7, although officially I think we stopped counting at 4, of the Wycombe Wanderers Show. This is the first programme that we've done where 2 games have happened since the last one.
It is.
It's very exciting.
It's a bit like those jingles, really. Yes, we will be reviewing the games against Millwall, which does now seem quite a long time ago, and Reading. Of course, the Millwall game gave us the first goal for Wycombe Wanderers in the Championship, so we shall celebrate that. And, of course, we are looking ahead to Saturday's game away at former Premier League boys Norwich.
Talking of looking ahead, kicking off this season is the league campaign for Wycombe Wanderers Ladies. We'll catch up with their manager, Dave Ward, also talking about their fantastic Women's FA Cup run, which saw them get to the second qualifying round, going out to Fulham.
And we will be chatting to former player Ken Wilson as well. Colin was chatting to him, I think it was earlier on this week, wasn't it?
It was.
And so looking forward to that. Yet another former player that we can tick off. We've only done 7 episodes, and I think we've now had 6 former players on, which isn't bad.
And we've covered different eras as well, thanks to the Ex-Players Association. So we spoke to Len Worley, who was around in the 50s.
He was, yes.
We spoke, I'm not sure I'm going to do this in order. We spoke to Glenn Creaser, who was around in the 90s.
You're doing it in order so far, yeah.
And we spoke to John Maskell, who was around, well, from the 60s through to 1980, so that's covered quite an era there. And yes, we'll be chatting to Ken, who was around in the early 80s.
Looking forward to that. That's going to be fantastic. Also hearing from Gareth quite a few times. So we're going to hear from Gareth post the Millwall game, post the Reading game, and also today where he was previewing the Norwich City match.
All of which you've been to, of course, then, the Millwall and... Yeah, it feels like more games, doesn't it?
Again, it does, yes. So I was at Reading on Tuesday night. It wasn't too cold, actually. It was quite nice. But
Reading on an October evening.
Indeed, yes, definitely got lots to recommend it. And I know I keep sounding like a broken record every time I speak to Gareth and every time that I sit in this chair. But we played really well again. We really did.
I think that makes it worse, doesn't it? If we played badly and then lost, you think, well, fair enough.
Yeah. I mean, I felt there've been 2 times this season where I've come away thinking, well, yeah, okay, fair enough. One was the Blackburn game where obviously it was 5-0. The other one was the Swansea game where you felt that actually they spent most of that game in second gear. They went up into third gear to score their 2 goals and then very much came back to second gear. And yes, okay, we competed with them quite well in the second half, but you did slightly feel that actually if we'd started to threaten, they probably would have gone up a few more gears. But every game since then, we've played really well. And I went along to Reading on Tuesday thinking, well, goodness me, they're second in the table. They were second in the table then, obviously, almost an identical record with Bristol City, apart from a slightly inferior goal difference. And they hadn't lost all season, and you just think, well, yeah, this is going to be a really long night, isn't it? And it's going to be hard to find any positives whatsoever. And actually, goodness me, the first half, 6 shots to Reading's none, and they really did look quite rattled. I do wonder slightly whether or not teams are now looking at the table and underestimating us for the first 45 minutes, and possibly the same was true of Millwall as well, because the very notable thing about both Millwall and the Reading games was that clearly their managers had a little bit of a word in their ear at half-time, because they came out in the second half looking a lot more determined, a lot more committed, and a lot more up for it. But that's not to put anything, against Wycombe's performance. In both games, we played really well, we competed, and we were so unlucky against Millwall not to at least get a point. And against Reading, again, we deserved, last few minutes, Fred had a couple of opportunities. He drew a fantastic save from the Reading keeper, and you came away thinking, well, yeah, we definitely deserved at least a point from that.
And it must have been such a great feeling to take the lead on Saturday.
Oh, it was brilliant. That was easily the best moment of the season so far. When you're sitting in the press box, you are meant to slightly have a bit of decorum. But I was sitting there with Dan, the guy who does the Chairboys Live broadcast, and both of us, yes, so the decorum went straight out the window. We were jumping up and down and yelling. And as I mentioned to Gareth, actually, the amount of noise, you did slightly feel that there were fans in the stadium because there was a lot of noise. quite a lot of it being made by Pete Couhig, unsurprisingly.
And Scott Cashcat wasn't somebody who we picked as the first Championship goal scorer.
No, he wasn't. I mean, thank goodness that actually it was a Wycombe player, because we did also previously discuss that, we really hoped that the first goal would be from a Wycombe player, because, it would be slightly awful if it was an own goal, if it was off somebody's knee, head, backside sort of thing. And, the Millwall keeper nearly actually sort of gave us a goal like that. He certainly could have done better, but Scott was alive to it and made sure that actually, it was a Wycombe name on the team sheet rather than it went down as an own goal.
Yes, so the subject of last week's poll was who do you think to be the first goal scorer. The subject of this week's poll, which we'll give you more details on in a moment, is where do you think the first points will come from. But first, let's hear the thoughts of Gareth after the Millwall game on Saturday, speaking to Bob.
I keep saying this to you, you must be sick of me saying it, you played so well.
Yeah, we did. Again, it's an improvement, and I think as long as people keep saying an improvement, Swansea and Blackburn are distant memories now. If we'd have played like that against them, I'm sure we'd have got more out of those games as well. But it was a tough game against a tough Millwall side. Gary Rowett's a good friend and a great manager, and I'm sure that they're going to be a decent side, taking a lot of points off people this season. So really proud of the boys, and some good positive moments. First goal, Akinfen were back, Anis Mehmeti, young boy making his debut, which is all positives for Wycombe Wanderers, and really pleased and hoping that we can get our first win very soon.
And Anis being the first Wycombe player to be born after the year 2000, which makes me feel old. I'm sure it makes you feel old as well.
Very old, but I mean, he's a cracking kid. He's been really impressing in training, and it's what we have to do here. Really pleased with Josh as well. He came in and had a great debut, but unfortunately, we just came up short today, and a basic mistake has cost us, and also the goal could have been given. It wasn't. You take that. You have to take it on the chin sometimes.
When Scott Cashcat scored, it did sound like a bit of a small explosion went off in here. I couldn't help thinking, though, that if the fans had been here, it would have been absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, you know what? We miss them. We miss them big time. And my biggest thing this season is all these people who have supported this club for so long are missing out on this fantastic season that we're in the Championship. Hopefully they'll be let in soon, but I'm sure that the first win and a big cheer around the houses of Wycombe will be coming up soon.
Fantastic positivity from Gareth despite yet another defeat, and of course also fantastic for a member of the B team to come on and do so well.
Oh yes, Anis Mehmeti. He's fantastic. I mean, I more noticed him, to be honest, on Tuesday night, where he did just come on and instantly cause Reading a lot of problems. Amazing that he is now the first Wycombe player to be born after the year 2000, which you just think, oh goodness me, I'm sure that makes a lot of us feel really, really old. And yeah, he was signed obviously as a B team sort of prospect player, but I don't think he's possibly going to be troubling the B team for very long.
Fantastic. What sort of impressed you most about him?
Just his speed and just his agility, and just he was one of those people who just he really looks up for it, and he looks like he's having a good time when he's on the pitch. He looks a bit like he's still playing kids football, and and those moments where actually, well, yes, okay, you can start on the subs bench, and and the kid looks a bit sad, and oh no, and as soon as you say, right, okay, come on, you're coming on, and you're like, you're ready energy to go. Exactly, you've got so much energy. He looks like a player who's got a lot of energy, and yeah, I think he's going to be great.
Talk us through the poll for this week, then.
So the poll for this week is, yes, where do you think the first points for Wycombe will come from? Do you think they will come from the Norwich game, from the Watford game, from the Sheffield Wednesday game, or are you going for after
later?
Yes, exactly, the 10th game or beyond that? It's a difficult run, isn't it? When you say those names, Norwich, Watford, obviously both Premier League clubs last season. Sheffield Wednesday,
the only club with fewer points.
The only club with fewer points than us, but I think we all hoped that maybe they'd be slightly stuck on minus 12 or maybe minus 10 for a good few games. That clearly hasn't happened, and they are whittling down the points. I really hope they're still behind us by the time that we play them, because that might be slightly depressing.
That'll be a 6-pointer? No, maybe more.
Yes, well, yeah, when you start on minus 12, you're not quite sure, are you? But yes, that is our poll for this evening. Where do you think the first points are going to come from? Will it be the Norwich game, the Watford game, the Sheffield Wednesday game, or later than that? You can find the poll, as always, on Twitter. You can search for the hashtag TWWS.
Sounds like algebra, doesn't it?
It does. Yes. Don't ask me about algebra, please.
No, that's another programme entirely. Still to come, we'll hear from 80 striker Ken Wilson. We'll also be catching up with Dave Ward, the Wycombe Wanderers Ladies manager. But first, the thoughts of Gareth once again with Bob after the game at the Medeski on Tuesday night.
You went against a team that is now top of the Championship. Half-time, you had 6 shots to their none, which I think says it all.
Do you know, it's, again, one of the better performances of the season. I think the last 2 games have been really good. We keep that up, we'll be fine. I'm so convinced we're going to stay in this Championship with performances like that. But need the results. Key moments are really important. And when you've got a striker you've paid millions of pounds for, he comes up with a key moment. You know, we can't do that. We haven't been able to do that. But I'm sure that we've got enough in this dressing room to start winning games in the Championship. 6 on a run now for me, defeats. That's never happened before. But you know, I don't care. We've never been in the Championship before. We've got to make sure that we are, you know, really positive for Saturday, going into that game, taking some of the stuff we've had tonight, but just making those key moments, you know, count. You know, they've had a hoof up front, chested down, and he's turned us and scored a goal, and it's not good enough. You know, we don't get to do that. We've had to work really hard for our chances, and when we've had them, we've got to stick them in the goal as well. We've got to hit the target, work the keeper. Yeah, it was a great performance, but again, it's a defeat, and I'm not stupid. We need to start winning games.
And Fred nearly did the same thing right at the end as well. Nearly stuck it in the goal.
Yeah, I mean, the keeper's made a fantastic save, and I think Fred will be disappointed with the one earlier, a couple of minutes earlier, where he's gone over the bar. I think that was a great chance to get an equaliser, and who knows then. But no, pleased. I've got a few injuries still. They're coming back. Boys are good. Boys are okay. You know, it's just now that we've got to make sure we are competitive in every single game the way we can be, because I'm not scared of this Championship at all. I'm really, really looking forward to this, and it's great when all these national papers keep telling everyone that Wycombe haven't won a game yet. They're still talking about us. If they're not bothered about us, stop writing about us. It's great. There's only one thing worse than being talked about. That's not being talked about, so I'll take that all day.
Anis Mehmeti looks like he could be a lot of fun.
Anis Mehmeti is going to be one heck of a player. I think he could play at a really high level. I'm really pleased with him. I'm going to have to rein him in on that 40-yard shot that he tried, but his confidence is brilliant. I think you see his passing ability, the way he can motor down the wing. He's going to be a big player for us, and I'm sure that we'll be seeing plenty more of Anis.
I think you can tell how well we played, the fact that actually Gareth sounded quite depressed in that interview. You know, he really knew how close we'd come to getting a point out against the side that were now top of the Championship. And yeah, I thought that was a good thing that actually, you know, he was disappointed. He said how disappointed the boys were in the dressing room, and that just goes to show, well, you know, they did play really, really well.
And just quickly, something which keeps coming out as well, and you'd know more from being at the games as well, certain refereeing decisions seem to be going against us.
Yeah, definitely. You know, it really is that thing that when you're playing in a league like this, when you're the new boys, you're very much seen as the new boys, and, you know, almost as if you can't be trusted. And of course, all of the 50-50 decisions will go to the teams that actually, you know, were in the Championship, have been in the Championship previously, and that is, you know, yeah, slightly sticks in you know, it's just annoying. Just shouldn't be. Anyway, let's continue now. Let's talk about Wycombe Wanderers Ladies, because their league season starts this coming Saturday. The reason for that, actually, it's nothing to do with COVID, it's nothing to do with the weather, it's the fact that they've done so well in the FA Cup. Of course, this week, in fact, just 24 hours ago, we had the news that Tara Woodward, Wycombe Wanderers Ladies striker and one of the leading goal scorers over the past couple of seasons, has announced that she is stepping away from football for a while. So I started off by asking Dave about Tara.
It was a personal choice for Tara for a series of personal reasons, as I understand it. It was a bit of a surprise, but, you know, she's had to make those choices for herself, which she's done, and she goes with our blessing and our support. And I wish her every success with whatever she chooses to do in the future. But now's the time for me to focus on the other players in the squad, because now they're the ones that are left having to fight for the club.
Wycombe Wanderers fans actually are quite aware of who Tara is. She's got quite a strong social media presence. You know, we're all aware of various situations that she's had previously. And as you say, I think, you know, we all wish her absolutely 100% the best, and, you know, and hope that one day we're going to see her back in the light and dark blue quarters.
Well, you never know. You never know. You can never say never to these things, can you? But yes, I think for the time being, I think Tara wants to take a break, and she needs to sort of recharge her batteries and her enthusiasm, and also to deal with whatever else is going on in her life. And those decisions, I know, are quite personal to her. And that should be respected.
The season starts on Sunday, but the reason that the season is sort of being delayed is actually because how well you've done it in the FA Cup.
Yeah, it's been really quite a strange season, what with pre-season suddenly merging with competitive fixtures in the FA Cup. So the FA Cup has almost proved to be a pre-season programme as well. But it's been quite an eventful journey. It's one that we've all enjoyed immensely. It's a shame that it came to an end on Sunday against Fulham, because we've fallen one stage earlier than we did last season, which was the furthest we'd ever got in the competition. But on reflection, we didn't take our chances on Sunday, and we had probably 4 or 5 good chances in the first half to put the game to bed, and fluffed our lines on those, and then we conceded a fairly poor free kick, in my opinion, wide on the left, just after the hour. Really well struck free kick, really good near post run and finish from one of their strikers, which made it quite difficult for us. But the players really did please me on Sunday, because it was probably the most together that we've looked as a side with all of the new signings that we've made. And we hit the woodwork twice with their goalkeeper beaten hands down on both occasions. So again, I can't remember how many times we've hit the post this season, but it's numerous occasions. Every fixture so far, we've clattered the woodwork. None more so than when we played Eversley in California a couple of rounds earlier, when we hit it 8 times in the game, which is almost unprecedented. I've never seen it before in all my many years of being involved in football.
And it must be so frustrating as well. I mean, I've spoken to Gareth Ainsworth a lot this season as well, particularly with regards, say, to the Fulham game, where, yes, OK, so you've had a good couple of chances, unfortunately they haven't gone in, and then your opposition has one chance and they take it, and that's the difference between a draw and a loss.
It was fine margins on Sunday, and to be fair to Fulham, they were very well organised throughout the 90 minutes. They defended pretty well. When we did breach them, we had to get past a very good goalkeeper in Edie Kelly, who is a former AFC Wimbledon player. And they were a good side, don't get me wrong, but I thought that we had the edge in the first half. They probably edged it in the second half, and then last 15 minutes or so, we went all guns blazing, and as I say, we hit the woodwork twice, and fortune favoured the brave on that occasion. But I take a lot of pride from that particular performance, because as I say, the whole squad that were involved, I think we made 4 changes in the game to try and get something back out of it, especially after we'd gone 1-0 down. And the response from the whole group was immense. So it gives me a lot of encouragement moving into league fixtures coming this week.
Yeah, particularly what you're saying about the last 15 minutes, it sounds like it was the classic cup tie where you were then throwing everything at it to try and get that goal back.
Yeah, pretty much. We did that, and young Amy Whale, who's our under-18 goalkeeper as well, she's been playing. She's played all the FA Cup games so far, apart from the Eversley game. But she's done exceptionally well. She had a couple of routine saves to make. Nothing she could have done about the goal, because it was just so quick fire. That a more experienced keeper would not have reacted any more quickly than Amy did, and she's been really, really good for us so far, and that will continue this weekend as well.
So it must be a little bit strange, the fact that we're a week away now from November, and the league season is only just about to start.
Yeah, I know. It does feel really odd saying we're going to play our first game on the 1st or 2nd of November, whatever it is. It's mad. Well, in fact, sorry, it's still the end of October. I'm getting ahead of myself. But yeah, it does seem very strange playing so late in this autumn. But yeah, we've got a very difficult game ahead of us in playing Woodley away. They had a very good win on Sunday where they came back from 2-1 down at half-time against Newbury and managed to win 6-2. So I think they're going to be very testing opposition for us. And this season, looking at some of the results so far, I don't think anyone can take anything for granted in the game or in this particular league.
I mean, again, as you say, one of the slightly curious things as well is the fact that actually other teams have been playing whilst you haven't. So you know, you're currently there in the table, you know, 0 games, 0 points, but actually there are other teams that have already played 2 or in, I think, in a couple of cases, even 3 games.
Yeah. And we're not bottom of the table either.
Which is always good. Again, a little bit like the men, but this time for different reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's very important for us to get off to a good start on Sunday. And I've got every confidence in our players that they'll be able to deliver on the day. But it will not be an easy game. You know, there's nothing you can take for granted in this league. Everyone's capable of beating each other. But, you know, we've got a group of 4 or 5 of us, I think, who are considered the favourites for potentially promotion this season. I regard us as one of those. But it's important for us to get off to that quick start because dropping too many points when competing for a solitary promotion spot is not ideal. So it's really a case of we must win games. Drawing games is not really helpful, and losing certainly isn't. So, you know, we've got to go all guns blazing on Sunday and hope to come away with a positive result.
And yeah, I would imagine that that's true. Playing in a league where actually there aren't as many teams. You know, Gareth Ainsworth he's got 24 or 23 opponents to play, whereas you haven't got anything like that. So actually, as you say, drawing games quite often isn't helpful. You are really looking for the 3 points every time.
Pretty much, and history shows that in the league, those teams that have gone on to win the championship and then get promoted to the National League level have usually dropped maybe 2-3 points across the season. Some have gone completely unbeaten and won every game, or maybe just got the odd 2 points in a draw. But you know, the championship side usually goes through pretty much close to unbeaten all season. And you know, that's why it's so important to get off to that positive start. And you know, one could argue that on paper we're looking at Woodley and Newbury as the 2 opening games. But they've always proved tough opponents, especially in their own backyards as well, where they can make life very difficult for sides that like to play. They too have players in their side that can hurt us. Their striker, Rosie Page-Smith, is well known in the game at this level, and she always scores goals. So, you know, we've got to be concentrating for the whole 90. We've got to make sure we defend well, but we've also got to make sure that we're far more ruthless in the top third, which is probably the one thing that has cost us in terms of having more comfortable victories in the FA Cup so far.
It's interesting that you talk about teams being difficult to play in their own backyard. Obviously, there's been quite a debate since league games have been played behind closed doors about whether or not home advantage does count for very much, particularly when fans are there. I know that at the level that Wycombe Wanderers Ladies play, having a crowd there is not something that happens particularly often. So how do you find home advantage in a division such as Wycombe Wanderers Ladies are in?
Well, the home advantage for us is the fact that we play on a 3G surface, which we're very familiar with. It's a true surface, and again, some opponents find it a bit more difficult, but I think less so nowadays because virtually every side in the division, as far as I'm aware, trains on a 3G surface throughout the winter. But it's when you go onto grass pitches after having had the luxury of 3G, where the bounce is true, the bounce is consistent. You get onto a heavy, muddy pitch, and it's a very different ball game for our players. And you know, fortunately, we've had a bit of practice having played on grass for the last 2 weeks. and players are now used to that surface. So playing Woodley away actually is not something that should worry us in terms of the surface. But I don't want players looking at excuses. I think they should be able to play on any surface, and I'm confident that the quality we have in the side can do that. There's no doubt about it. I've got a very strong squad this season. It's a very competitive squad, and it's one that I hope will do well.
What are you looking at in terms of the season then? So promotion definitely is a possibility.
It's the absolute target for us, yeah. If we don't aim for that, then we might as well not bother competing. But I think that the additions that we've brought into the side, along with the players that we've retained, we have a very strong group this year. And on their day, they should be able to compete with the likes of Moneyfields, Bournemouth, Abingdon, and give them a very good run for their money. And I think the players that were with us last season, and with the new additions, there should be enough know-how there to see us get our noses in front and then see games out and to manage games effectively.
For those who aren't aware, tell us whereabouts you sit within the football pyramid of women's football. So obviously people are very familiar with the Super League, but whereabouts do Wycombe fit into that sort of puzzle, as it were? Yeah,
we're 4 tiers below that, and we operate at the regional league level, and then below that you've got regional divisions 1 in many of the regions, and then you go down to county leagues where they can have as many as 4 or 5 divisions in some areas. But the aim for us is to get into the National League setup, where you've got 3 match officials every week. It's run and managed by the Football Association. It's recognised as being a significant step up in standard. And again, the commitment is much higher because the travelling is much further. Not that I like to draw comparisons between female and male football, but in the men's game there are so many leagues and so many non-league sides that sometimes the travelling isn't too onerous. But having said that, I've looked at some of the structures this year and some of the travelling is enormous.
Yes, yeah.
But in female football there are less clubs, so consequently regions are bigger. The National League setup is bigger, and the geographic spread wider.
Also, I would imagine that one of the differences between the two is that actually, is it more difficult for you to find players? How do you source new players at Wycombe Wanderers Ladies?
It's a bit like having the black book, proverbially. It's knowing players, keeping tabs on players that you've seen play, talking to other players and using their networks, talking to other managers in other leagues. It should be no shock to anyone that with Tara's announcement, I've been very quick to make contact with another striker with National League level experience and ability, who I think will be training with us from next week. And if I can get her across the line, that gives us more strength and gives us a more than adequate replacement for Tara leaving. So, it is about people that you know and the contacts that you retain over the years.
With regards to the club at Adams Park, how much link do you have actually with the men's side?
Pretty strong, really. We've done all of our kit ordering and all of our training kit ordering through the club this year. When we did our registration evening at Adams Park, although it was all socially distanced, quite rightly so, Pete Couig came in and spoke to the ladies, and we also introduced him to the under-18 squad as well, and he said some motivational and encouraging words of support there. We've also got links with the Trust Board, of course, through David Robertson principally, who has a responsibility for female football, and that link. So, yeah, we very much feel part of the Wycombe family. And I would say relationships are very, very positive. During pre-season, we have the added benefit of being able to use the training ground shared with the men. And Gareth has been very welcoming in that respect right throughout the summer. It's a really good, positive relationship.
Fantastic. With regards then to COVID at the moment, what are the rules with for Wycombe Wanderers fans who want to come and see you? Is it currently being played behind closed doors?
At the moment, it's behind closed doors for home games, but for spectators that are really determined to support us and come and watch the game, you can view through the cage at the moment. We have applied for a grant to the Football Foundation, which we've been awarded, I'm told, which is to help make grounds spectator or COVID safe for spectators. So we're now going to be entering the dialogue with the college at Flackwell Heath to see if we can put in some additional features that will enable some supporters to come back and watch the game from within the cage. So they're a bit closer to the action. They're not having to look through a fence at the game. And obviously that generates a bit more atmosphere as well. But we have to do it the right way and make sure that we ensure the safety of all concerned. And, working with the college, we should be able to do that.
Fantastic. Well, it's good to know that's a possibility, and so that actually, yes, fans might be able to come, as you say, and not have to be doing the looking through the cage thing in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so grateful for the support that we've had for our home fixtures so far, and long may that continue. But it'd be really nice to get those people back inside the cage so they can get closer to the game.
Fantastic. Well, Dave, all the very best against Woodley United and for the whole season. And obviously do come back on regularly and tell us how you're getting on the Wycombe Wanderers Show. Yeah,
thank you very much. I'm just hoping we can bring the points back on Sunday evening for everyone. And I'd love to join you again.
Absolutely. We need some points here at Wycombe Wanderers. Clearly, the men aren't delivering at the minute. Let's keep our fingers crossed for the Norwich game and for the Woodley game as well, and how fantastic it would be on Sunday evening to be sitting there with 6 points between the two of you. Yeah,
I'm sure that Gareth and his squad have got more than enough capacity and capability to start getting points on the board. It's obviously been a bit of a shock to start with, but the game on Wednesday at Reading, my understanding is again that the lads did really, really well and were undone by one ball.
Yeah, I mean, again, it sounded exactly like you were saying about the Fulham game. So I was lucky enough to be there at the Reading game, and almost exactly the same. Wycombe did have chances. Really, Reading had one, and they scored it.
Yeah, and from that, I think Gareth and his team can draw an awful lot of strength moving forward, because they will have seen an awful lot of positives from that game, and they'll hopefully be wanting to build on those positives. Reduce any lapses in concentration, which I think all players are guilty of, irrespective of what level they play at, and they'll get on top of it, I'm sure. They certainly deserve to be there, no argument, and I'm sure that they'll get themselves out of those relegation spots over the next few weeks.
Dave Ward, the manager of Wycombe Wanderers Ladies, although if you've just tuned in and heard him say it'd be really nice if we can get people back into the cage.
We're not talking about, UFC or something.
Into the octagon.
Indeed, yes. No, it was nothing to do with that.
And we wish them all the best for their opening league fixture away to Woodley.
Woodley United, who of course are the team that Gareth Ainsworth plays for occasionally, the non-league side that he sometimes turns out for on a Tuesday or a Wednesday night, although I don't imagine that he'll be doing that much this season, given how many midweek games Wycombe have got.
Indeed.
Latest on the poll.
Yes.
So
poll
we are
update.
asking you tonight who you think will give Wycombe Wanderers their first points. Will it be Norwich, Watford, Sheffield Wednesday, or will it come later than that? Currently, Norwich and later than that are currently tied for the lead. So come on, everyone, let's be optimistic rather than pessimistic. If you want to take part in the poll, then go on Twitter and search for #TWWS.
Still to come on this week's edition of the Wycombe Wanderers Show, we'll hear from Gareth once again, this time looking ahead to the trip to Norwich, which could be where the first points come from. That'd be incredible, wouldn't it? Former Premier League team getting points against them. That'd be excellent. And we'll be chatting to 80s striking sensation Ken Wilson in a few moments' time.
This is Wycombe Sound.
Optimism is the key. That's our feature, I think, isn't it? Throughout the whole of this series.
And that's how Gareth would be as well. And when you hear him talking about the Norwich game, it's completely different from how he was post the Reading game.
And it's so infectious, isn't it? Because you feel, oh yes, the points are just around the corner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Apart from everyone that's voted for 10th place.
Well, sorry, that's not me. I have voted for Norwich.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
So we'll be looking ahead to the game against Norwich. Are you going to Norwich?
I am going to Norwich, yes.
There's an expression you don't hear very often.
Do you know the way? That's very stereotyped. I'm sorry, I didn't say that.
Do you know the way?
Just about, yes.
It's a long way, isn't it?
It is a long way, and also, it's a real pain because there aren't really motorways in that bit of the world. So you have to. This is going to sound awful. You have to concentrate a bit more, if you know what I mean.
Watch out if you're on the roads and you see.
You know what I mean, because there's roundabouts and stuff.
Roundabouts? Good Lord.
Whereas, when you go into Blackburn, it's fine, because you just get on the M40 and basically it's motorways all the way, so you can just sit there and, and you don't really have to think too much, whereas going to Norwich, too many roundabouts.
If Bob's not on the show next week, he won't. Didn't concentrate nearly enough.
Either because I will have had an accident or I will have been arrested for dangerous driving. That's not going to happen.
Don't do as he says. Do as you do.
Let's move on, shall we?
So yes, we mentioned a little earlier on that thanks to the Ex-Players Association, who we heard from JDT last week on the programme and the great work they do, including supplying the nets, which is a fantastic thing, on the goal for the shooting practice.
Yeah, I thought that was really good. Luckily, there wasn't the nets at Adams Park on Saturday after Ryan Alsop broke one of them.
Exactly, yeah.
That was quite exciting.
Hope someone's kept the receipts on those.
Something that you don't see every day.
No, it delayed the game somewhat.
It did, rather. And the great thing was that you got the impression that the guys who were trying to mend it were getting slightly more panicked the longer that they couldn't do it, which made the situation even worse. Eventually they did manage to do it, but you can just imagine that, try this, try that. Oh, no, that's not working. Everyone's looking at us, come on.
It's like a panicked pit stop.
Yes, it was a little bit Chuckle Brothers, but not quite that.
Fantastic. So earlier on in the week I caught up with Ken Wilson, who you may remember was a striker at Lokes Park in the 80s, and he was talking about a whole range of things, obviously, what he's done post the club, but we started by chatting about how he started.
It was back in early 1980. I was playing for Hounslow Town then, and not really doing that well, I think, in terms of a football career, really. I'd been at QPR as a youngster and had a few games with Brentford midweek team, but then started getting interested again at Hounslow Town, and it was actually Brian Lee who saw me play against Basingstoke and recommended me to Mike Keane, and I was joined within a week or two, and it was fantastic, the best thing I've ever done.
So it must have been quite an interesting period to be at the club.
Yeah, I think they were winning leagues for fun in the 70s, I think, and this was a transition. It was at the Isthmian Premier. Mike was, I thoroughly enjoyed my time with Mike. He was a great manager and a really nice man.
And I guess as well, it was in a team where you had some sort of great players around you, and being sort of the sort of attacking winger type player that you were, that must have been exciting for the fans to watch as well.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was tough at first. When I first arrived, there was a guy called Mick Hollyfield who was playing in my position, and I thought, how the heck am I going to get into this team? Because he was a fantastic player and a real nice guy. And he retired at the end of the first season, so that was my big break. And I got into a very attacking team. Howard Kennedy was the captain, and excellent forwards, Steve Long, Terry Glynn, real characters like George Borg, and it was a real step up to me, and I really had to respond, and I just loved playing football. And the following season, 81-82, was a fantastic season for us. We didn't win anything, but we were actually in all 4 competitions and went out them all in a period of 10 days in April. But that was a heck of a team. We made up for it the following year and won the league. But I always had memories of 81-82. We actually played 69 first-team games in that season, and we were just all in when it came to April and at the sharp end. So that was a big disappointment, particularly losing to Altrincham in the semi-final.
I was going to say, it sounds such an exciting period. Are there any particular matches which stand out especially?
Yeah, it was the Altrincham semi-final, where, for me personally, I'd scored in the 89th minute in the first leg of the semi-final, and then they scored in about the 93rd, and that we just didn't really perform at home in front of a really big crowd at Wycombe. And that was a massive disappointment. Some good cup games. I remember the following season we played Bristol Rovers, who were then top of the old 3rd division. I always remember Mike Keane went to watch them beforehand, and he came back and said we got no chance. They'd just beaten Portsmouth 5-0 the previous week to go top of the league. They were a very, very good team, and we played ever so well at Bristol. We lost 1-0, but it was a heck of an achievement. Yeah, lots of. And I always loved the home games as well. Playing in front of a good-sized crowd, which I really hadn't been previous to Wycombe, and great home support. And I think that helped us to recover and then go on and win the league in '83. That was great fun. We also had some great tours. I remember an Anglo-Italian tour in '83. We went out to Cosenza. It was Chelmsford and us from the UK, England, sorry, and Cosenza and Padua. And fantastic tournament. There was a rock concert afterwards, and so it was a huge crowd in Cosenza. We got beaten by them and then won the third and fourth place, but fantastic times. Yeah, lots of good memories.
You say about the ground as well. It must be quite special to be one of those people who did play at Lokes Park as well.
Yeah, it was, and as a wide player, you kind of got used to it. I was always right or left wing, and I ended up playing the first half on the right wing and the second half on the left wing just to use the slope. That was always where I liked to play. But it was an excellent surface. They're all great surfaces these days, but I think teams used to raise their game at Wycombe because it was a wonderful ground and pitch. Of course, the new project is fantastic, and it's gone up a level now, but got real good memories for Lokes Park. Really happy times there.
And you must be especially sort of reflecting on the sort of the gulf, if you like, between Wycombe being a non-league team in your day and now being in the second tier of English football.
Oh, I think we all had to pinch ourselves with when we were going up to the Championship. I think Gareth and Dobbo are just doing miracles here. I know it's a difficult start for them, but I was looking at the league table actually and thinking actually they're still only 4 points away from safety now if you'd looked at it like that. But they've done absolute miracles, and it makes you feel so proud to be part of that. And I just hope they can scramble enough points to stay up, and of course with the current situation I guess the club's not getting all the benefits that it would have done, because I hear that all the boxes and the season tickets were going like hotcakes, which is a shame, but I think a lot of clubs in that position.
No, definitely. What's your main kind of reflection, if you like, when you look back at your time playing for the club? Obviously it sounds like it's something that you definitely really enjoyed.
Oh yes, and I mean that's for the ex-players to go back together. Yes, it was a step up for me. It was all of a sudden it was a real proper football club and a lot of history. Mike Keane was a wonderful coach and manager. He helped so much and had that tradition, and you felt that you had to raise everything, raise your standards and everything. So I very fondly. I left in '85. There was a number of reasons that I didn't think with the business that I was involved in and the travelling I was doing there, I couldn't do the conference. And Howard Kennedy was a very close friend of mine. He was manager at Slough, so I went there. It was I do often wonder. I wish I'd stayed on because I thought I was playing the best football of my career at that stage, and so I do wonder if I'd have been better off staying. But still got great memories.
And fans may not be aware of what you did post-Wycombe. You were heavily involved in coaching as well.
Well, yeah, there was actually some other ex-Wycombe players, Mark Hill, Steve Thompson. We used to be part of a Curver coaching programme, which is still going, and we'd go out most summers it was usually New York State, and we'd do a lot of coaching with this coaching programme. We got a lot from it, and then we subsequently did some more coaching when we got back. Mark Hill and I have remained good friends, and we did we did some of the Curver coaching program at Reading for a while, and that was with Brendan Rodgers, and he's gone on to great things, but he liked the program. It was aimed at sort of the under 15s and below sort of age groups, but yes, we've always enjoyed that. I've done some scouting as well. I still do a bit of coaching, but I'm with the Scottish Football Association, and my title is an elite performance scout for the South East. So I get sent to generally see under 18, under 23 games, and looking for eligible players and report back to Scotland. So that's I'm still involved, albeit part time in football.
That must be really rewarding, actually, to spot young talent like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Makes you think. I'm sure Gareth and Dobbo have been doing a lot of thinking and looking at players and needing a good scouting regime, which I think they've had. They've always done well with that. But it's always, everybody's got an opinion. It's picking that. I'm seeing what they class as the elite players. I'm going to these fantastic training centres, the Spurs, Arsenal, Chelsea. They're incredible, and looking at lots of talented 16, 18, 21-year-olds, and thinking, you can't put a cigarette paper between them. Technically, it's all something else. You're looking for that something else that makes them into a top player.
That's very good news, actually, for people who are Scottish and wondering about the talent coming through.
Yeah, we're looking for anyone eligible. If anyone's got a Scottish grandfather, then they're in. No, Scotland are turned for the better with Steve Clarke at the moment. They're in much better shape, so that's good. I mean, I get a lot of enjoyment for that, but again, with the current situation, it's hard to go and see games because of the restrictions, which is rightly so.
Of course, and supporters may recognise your name from your sort of collaboration with Andrew Harmon, and that must have been a very interesting period as well for you.
Yes, Andrew is a teammate, a good friend of mine, very successful, and has a big love for Wycombe Wanderers, and was genuinely interested in putting forward his proposals. I supported him on that, and we had quite a few public meetings with this, and Andrew went and I tried to support him the best I can. It didn't go through, but the important thing is the club has gone from strength to strength, that's the important thing.
And as you sort of touched on, it must be so pleasing to have been part of the club and to see where it is now.
Oh goodness, immensely proud, yeah. Yeah, immensely. I think that's shown in the Ex-Players Association. I mean, John Taylor and Alan Hutchinson have done such a fantastic job, a real example, and so many people have a great affinity and want to be involved in it. We have the practical events, the dinner, the golf, the bowls, and it's all well supported. And those two guys are just fantastic in the Ex-Players. So it's good to see the old face. Had a few sad times this year. Some of the guys have passed away this year, which is all very sad. But I think it's fairly unique that the club has got an organisation like this, which is people going back 50s, 60s, 70s, incredible.
It must be fascinating to share, stories with, say, for example, someone who played in the 57 final at Wembley and someone who was in a playoff final in the 90s and someone in your own era as well.
Absolutely. And to play a round of golf with them and just share discussion. And then we got this bond together that we all wore the light and dark blue, and it's great, and it's wonderful. All of a sudden you're back out playing sport like golf, and you feel like you're in a team again. And once again, that's Alan and Hutch that have enabled this to happen.
I'd be interested to hear your thoughts as well on if it's possible to sort of put your finger on what you think is so special about the club, because there seem to be some such fantastic stories that perhaps you wouldn't get at other clubs.
Yeah, I think, when I came, it was one of the last clubs that stepped over from amateur football and high principles, and I think there was a great local affinity. I mean, some of the stories going back are incredible, and the size of the crowds and what have you, and there was great support there. I think it's harder now to do that. There's a special feeling in the town. I mean, I live over in Ascot, so I don't get to see that many games, but I think there's a great affinity there. Hard to maintain that in this day and age with all finances and big business and owners and what have you, but I think Wycombe maintains that better than most, I would say.
And really nice, obviously, perhaps it was more popular years ago, but for players to stay at a team for a long time as well, which you don't get so much nowadays.
Not at all, no. It's that's the nature of the business now. But I think it's their careers, it's the financials, and they're looking to being managed by agents as well. There's the game's full of agents and telling them to move on for whatever reason or whatever. It's unusual, but you see, I mean, Matt Bloomfield. I mean, you don't get many of them now, do you? Staying that much service at the club, and that's a great story.
And I think that was what was really nice about the team when you were playing as well, because you obviously really established players and players that fans would sort of associate themselves with as well.
Oh, there was real characters as well. George Borg and Terry Glynn, would show up in their van, George's van, every Tuesday and Thursday night, travelling from East London. Real characters, and they've gone on to be very successful non-league and very, very good footballers as well. But there was such a dressing room of characters, and I think that's inherent in any good team. You had to have a good dressing room. We certainly had that. And Howard was a terrific leader, absolutely terrific, and wonderful footballer as well.
And just finally, what's your main kind of, as I say, just a sense of pride, really, that Wycombe are now in the second tier of English football, and obviously results are important, but it's just great that they're there playing such big names in the league. Oh,
incredible. Still pinch yourself, really. You see the fixtures and the clubs, but I can always say I played for a championship club now, can't I? I suppose they gave me that. So, it's so exciting for the town.
That's fantastic. It's been brilliant to speak to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to Ken Wilson. Really, really good to hear his thoughts, and also echoing again what I think we keep saying, and also what Gareth says, that, well, yes, okay, it's not going that well, but at the same time, look at the teams that we're playing and the names, and it is quite exciting. We're going to Carrow Road on Saturday.
It's very exciting. You're going to Carrow Road on Saturday.
I'm going to Carrow Road on Saturday.
Have you been before?
The team's going to Carrow Road. Oh, and I must apologise, because I did say with regards to the ladies season that started on Saturday, that was wrong. It starts on Sunday. Sorry, I got my S's wrong there. But great to hear from Ken. And we do have more previous players and managers, I do believe, coming up for you on the Wycombe Wanderers Show in the future.
Indeed. Watch this space, although it's a radio thing, so
okay,
a bit tricky to do that.
Any sort of era that you'd like to tease us with?
Yes, I should tell you something like that. We've got a couple of managers actually that we're in discussions with, should we say?
Okay.
And one's more recent, and one's rather legendary, I should say.
Fantastic.
And also we'll be speaking to more players from different eras as well. Again, thanks to the Ex-Players Association.
But still to come, we are speaking to the legendary one that is Gareth Ainsworth ahead of the game against Norwich this coming Saturday.
This is Wycombe Sound.
So 5 minutes left on the poll if you'd like to get your votes in. It's been a mixture of pessimism and optimism on the voting, hasn't it?
From what we understand at the moment, it is level pegging between Norwich and after the 10th game. Or when after the 10th game, nobody's quite sure.
Either very soon points will come, or in the more distant future points will come. But at some point, points will come.
Points will come. We do promise that.
It's very exciting, isn't it? Like you say, there's a real feeling at the moment, I think, of, obviously losing 6 games isn't much fun, but there's still a feeling of, hey, Wycombe are in the Championship.
Definitely. And also, we are competing. Again, I know people might laugh at that, and people who haven't seen the games might laugh at that, but if you watch those games, yes, apart from those 2 that I said earlier on, Blackburn and Swansea weren't quite so good, but the other 4, we've played really, really well, and particularly, going into the game on Tuesday night, where you did think, well, Reading have done really well, this is going to be a long old evening, and we were great. We played so well, and we were just undone by one bit of quality, from a guy who signed for Reading for millions of pounds.
So next up is a trip, as we mentioned, to one of last season's Premier League teams, Norwich. Let's get Gareth's thoughts ahead of that game.
There's 1 or 2 key moments where we were doing it last year as well, but in the Championship you get punished more. You get a £10 million striker against you like Zhao on Tuesday night. 1 lapse of concentration and he's in and he takes his chance. You don't get that in League One. We get it in the Championship. So, but everyone has these momentary lapses. Premier League players have it. All goals you could go into in the Premier League and say there was a mistake here, a mistake there. So we've just got to make sure the key moments in both boxes, I think, is what counts, and we're getting to grips with that. But super positive. The performances have definitely been getting there. We are coming up against who I consider to be possibly the best team in the league on Saturday in Norwich. I think they're an outstanding football team with a great manager, and so this is going to be a real test. But we've just taken the team that's sitting currently top of the league all the way, and I think if we're being honest, people will say, how did Wycombe not get anything out of that game? And so that really gives me positive attitude going into the next games. Norwich, Watford, Sheffield Wednesday, Birmingham, Forest, what a run of games, and it's brilliant. It really is brilliant to be going into these games. So just keep performing, boys. Keep going the way you are. We'll be just fine. I I have total belief that this team will stay in this league after what we've just done to Millwall and Reading. I just feel that we'll get the look and it'll turn, and we'll get the points on the board quickly.
We're putting in some great displays, but we still haven't got any points. What do you put that down to?
It's lack of goals. Obviously, you know, we've struggled to score. There's no hiding place with that. You know, 1 in 6 isn't good enough in the league. We've had shots, but they've been saved. They've been speculative shots. We haven't created as many chances like we did last year, free-flowing, touches in the opposition box, shots on target. Although we outdid Reading on Tuesday by quite some distance with shots, we haven't hit the net, you know, and that's, you know, that's key. So, yeah, I think scoring goals, we're in a tough league. You know, we're looking for clean sheets, maybe a tough ask in this league, but we have to go and score goals at the other end. I think Bale not being fully fit, Uche Pizu not being fully fit yet, it's been tough, you know, because I think if you look at the goals from last season, Bale's involved in quite a few goals. I'd say the majority of the last 4 years have involved Bale with assists or scoring. Uche again is coming to be that Bale type up front, and we really need the players to start believing they're going to score, and you know, all the training we do, we hit the netting target and training. It's just different in the games. We're going to make sure we start getting some goals on the board, which is key for us now.
A fully fit Bayo could really do some damage in this league, couldn't he?
In any league, Bayo Akinfenwa will cause mayhem, even in the Premier League, believe me. I know what that guy can do, and if you play the right way to him, he can really dictate games, and I think having him back will be huge for us. Bayo knows he's not fully fit yet, I think in recent seasons, his first season he wasn't up to speed. His third season, I think it was, he wasn't up to speed, and we missed him. You know, and I think that there's no shying away. You know, if one of your top players is out of the team, in any team, Man United, Liverpool, anywhere, I think you missed them, and we've missed Bale's presence definitely in the first 4 games, and I think it's no coincidence that the last 2 games we've been super competitive, and Bale's been involved in both dressing rooms, you know, so really pleased to have him back. He's a fantastic fella, and looking forward to seeing what he can do in this championship, because he got wrote off in League 2, and that's a crazy thing to do, because he's well worth his weight.
Could you do without playing 2 teams now who were playing Premier League football this time last year?
It's a tough run of games, you know. There's no hiding from it. This is the championship, you know, and the good thing is, I think there's some teams that are going to struggle this year for points. So I think if we can get some points on the board, we won't be far off, battling for our survival, which I firmly believe we can achieve. So. I don't think we're not going to be cut adrift ever. I think it's going to be a competitive league right through, and looking forward to seeing what we can do. But the games, you look at it, you know, we've got 2 ex-Premier League teams in the next 2 games. They're both with huge parachute payments, both with enormous budgets, and when I used to go on in Leagues 1 and 2 about the gap in finances and resource. Wow, you go to these 2 clubs and training grounds and players they have, international players. I think Watford had over 12, I think it was, international players in the international break. You know, we had Darryl called up at the last minute, and the difference is quite substantial in this league. But we have proved on Tuesday and on Saturday we can mix it with some of the best teams in the league, and I'm looking forward to mixing it again on Saturday.
Finally, the recent history of Norwich City is a little bit like our own. Daniel Farke took them up when nobody expected them to be in with a chance of promotion 2 seasons ago. What do you make of the job that he's done at that club?
What a fantastic manager Daniel Farke is, you know, and a fantastic guy as well. I have big respect for him. He came to us in the Carabao or League Cup, I can't remember what it was called, a few years ago, and a 4-3 game. You'll remember Akinfenwa, because Akinfenwa came on that day and played really well, and we changed the game back. But he does things in the right way. He conducts himself in the media and on the touchline in a fantastic way. And I've got nothing but the utmost respect for somebody who comes to the country from another country and gets the team promoted to the Premier League, a big club like Norwich. I think he's a fantastic guy. It'd be great to battle against him, and a privilege to go to Carrow Road. You know, this is what it is. You know, I want to go there and really make a mark and really get my boys to say, right, we're here. We've earned the right to be here. We're in the same league as these, and let's have a right go. You know, so I'm looking forward to the whole weekend, and then soon after that we get Watford. You know, we're a whisker away from staying in the Premier League. So it's 2 fantastic games coming up, which should whet the appetite of all the boys. I just want the attitude to be, this is what we wanted, this is what we came for, this is what we've been dreaming of all our lives as footballers. Not fearing it, not thinking, oh, these are going to be tough. These are opportunities to show why Wycombe Wanderers got to the Championship, and I want to take this opportunity with both hands.
Fantastic. I must say thank you to Matt at the club as well for helping us out with the interview.
Yeah, that was very good of you, Matt. Thank you very much. We do appreciate all of your efforts for Wycombe Sound. I can reveal the poll.
Didn't know it was going to happen then.
No, I wasn't referring back to Mr. Cecil or Mr. Ainsworth. I can reveal, with regards to the poll, that yes, people have gone for the positive option, and they have said that yes, we will be getting our first points of the season at Carrow Road on Saturday.
That's something to look forward to.
Indeed, absolutely. And you know, Norwich, I mean, they're doing okay, and Gareth was very, very complimentary both about Daniel Falk and about Norwich generally. But you know, when you look at the table, I'd rather be playing. If I had the choice at the moment, I'd rather be playing Norwich than Watford.
Yes, good point.
You know, I know that we've then got to play Watford on Tuesday night, but yeah, I would.
And of course, Wycombe are a team traditionally who raise their game against the bigger teams and really like a challenge, and it would be excellent to get some points.
It would be really, really nice. So Norwich so far are currently 8th, played 6, won 3, drawn 1, lost 2.
And like Ken said earlier, we may be on no points, but still 4 points from safety?
Yeah, indeed. Let's just check. Yeah, you know. So if we win, but with our goal difference, yes, 4 points from safety, really.
And looking ahead, though, quite a few tough games to come. They're all tough at this level, but
and yeah, that's the thing.
They're coming thick and fast.
And then Gareth was then going through them, and you do think, right, okay, Norwich, Watford, Sheffield Wednesday,
isn't Bournemouth quite soon?
Birmingham City, Nottingham Forest. But you know, but this is why we're in this league.
Absolutely,
this is why we're here. So yeah, you know, let's not get
long may it continue as well.
Despondent. And it was great to hear as well how positive he was talking today, because as I say, you know, it was quite noticeable on Tuesday night that he was quite disappointed and he was quite down for Gareth. But actually, I thought that was really good because it actually showed how well we'd played and how close we came to getting a point against Reading.
It's very, very exciting. I'm excited.
Yes, I'm looking forward to Saturday. I think, you know, whereas again, going before the Reading game, I went along thinking, oh goodness me, this is going to be tough. Actually, on Saturday, I'm going along thinking we're going to compete today. We're going to give Norwich a decent game. They are going to have to play really, really well to get something from that match. And fingers crossed, we will be bringing some points back to Buckinghamshire from Norfolk on Saturday.
Must be so buoyed as well by the fact that created many chances in many of the games, and now we've scored a goal as well.
And we've scored a goal as well. That is it from us for tonight. Remember that you can download the podcast from all good podcast providers.